If you were one of the 12 million people who turned out to support Labour in the election, I have some bad news for you. There's no gentle way to break this, so I'm just going to come out with it. Jeremy Corbyn thinks you're a mug. Political analysts are still struggling to properly assess how Corbyn's Labour managed to secure 40% of the national vote. But a major part of the result was his marshalling of the following disparate constituencies: students, Remainers, Labour pragmatists and ABC1s. Remove them, and you hand May her misplaced 100-plus majority. Yet since the election, for reasons best known to himself, Labour's leader has embarked on a strategy of either taking these constituencies for granted, or treating them with outright contempt. First there was the admission he actually had no plans to act on historic student debt. This was followed by a doubling down on hard Brexit. Then he bowled up to Glastonbury and boasted to Michael Eavis how he had pulled the wool over the moderates' eyes on Trident. Having milked the applause of the adoring crowds, he promptly trotted back down to London and the Andrew Marr Show, where he unveiled his new Enoch Powell Tribute Act, railing against the wholesale importation of underpaid workers from Central Europe in order to destroy conditions, particularly in the construction industry. And then came this week's assault on Middle England, a demographic group whose support for his party rocketed a full 12 points since 2015. This last slapdown came courtesy of a video distributed by Momentum, Corbyn's personal political militia. It portrays the two British middle class as arrogant, entitled and venal. It mocks their suggestion it is possible to secure social advance through hard work, thrift and fiscal responsibility. And, unwittingly, it gives a graphic insight into what the Labour leader really thinks of those who lent him their votes on June the 8th. It's not uncommon for political leaders to rub their opponents' noses in their success. But this is the first occasion in political history when someone who has lost an election has rubbed his supporters' noses in his own failure. Of course, a key factor in this abasement strategy is that Corbyn doesn't think he did lose. As a result, he feels no need to learn any lessons, or align messages to match the new political reality. The cult of Corbynism will be enough. This arrogance was neatly framed during the student debt farrago. As his pledge "I will deal with it" was gradually disowned by his colleagues, Corbyn's team frantically cast around for ways to prevent the man of iron principle morphing into the Nick Clegg of the left. In the end, ideas spent, they fell back on "it doesn't matter. The students aren't ever going to vote Tory." To be fair to Corbyn, there is another, more solid rationale for his condescending view that millions of those who lent him their votes are dupes. It's that they are indeed dupes. Anyone who voted for Jeremy Corbyn on the basis he would oppose Brexit, or would acquiesce to a policy of nuclear deterrence, or would in any other way moderate his beliefs if granted a national mandate, is a fool. Or even a knave. A significant number of Labour moderates basically left it up to the rest of the electorate to do their dirty work for them. Unwilling to endorse Corbynism, they self-indulgently voted for him anyway, using Brexit as a fig leaf, on the assumption that the Tory legions would check his advance. And they nearly ushered him into Downing Street. Not that he currently has the slightest intention of showing any gratitude for their beneficence. This is because Corbynism remains a closed shop. Ever since he was elected leader, Corbyn and his supporters have been pursuing an ideological, rather than a political, agenda. As they have explicitly stated, electoral success is a welcome byproduct of their crusade. But that is all it is, a nice to have. And if you weren't with them at the start of their long march from Islington, don't get under their feet now. Yes, new converts to the cause will be tolerated. If they demonstrate a willingness to conform, they may even be accepted. but they will never truly be welcomed. To use a football analogy, Jeremy Corbyn and his acolytes see themselves as the left's season ticket holders. They go to every game, come rain or shine. In contrast, those who have expressed their support on or since June the 8th are the Prawn Sandwich Brigade. They have been lured by the spectacle of easy success. But where were they during the dark days of Blairism? Of course, there is a huge element of hypocrisy attending the neo-Marxist aristocracy. Corbynism is itself a largely middle-class construct. But that is not how the Corbynites choose to self-define. Which is why they hurl themselves with cold fury at anyone who dares highlight their own privilege. In the weeks following the election, Corbyn could have reached out. He could have embraced the moderates. But he slammed the shadow cabinet door in their face. He could have compromised with the Remainers. Instead he sacked them for daring to challenge him on single market access. He could have engaged with the students, and explained why his pledge on debt was no longer viable. Yet he chose to shrug, and pretend he'd never made the pledge in the first place. Of course, this haughtiness may be tempered. Power, once such an irrelevant and distant dream, is now a real prospect. John McDonnell and Keir Starmer are seeking ways to paper over Labour's Brexit divisions. But for the moment, Jeremy Corbyn cannot hide his disdain. No compromise with the electorate has long been a hard left article of faith. And having secured 40% of the vote by staying true to himself, he sees little reason to abandon it now. If you voted for Jeremy Corbyn, he thinks you're a mug. And you know what? He may actually have a point.